It's Ash from Super Videos back for another video for Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead. So we finally have some new photos for Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, but the most interesting photos that we're gonna see in this video are of the first look photos of the crossover between The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead with Morgan. So we're gonna see some photos of Morgan in this crossover and in the Fear the Walking Dead world. So these photos are not from The Walking Dead. These Morgan photos are going to be from Fear the Walking Dead. So it's going to be very interesting to see, how this happens, some speculations. There is some hints at what we might see, and also there are some photos of some new characters that are going to be introduced in Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead. Now, it feels very odd to look at some photos of Morgan because I just did a video of a photo that was released for the second half of Season 8 of Walking Dead with Morgan and Carol. And then here we have some photos of Morgan in Fear the Walking Dead. So it kind of feels very odd, but it's going to be interesting to see how all of this comes together. First, we're going to look at photos that are not of Morgan because they're not that interesting, at least to me. And then we're going to move on to the more interesting photos of Morgan. So first off, we have this photo of Madison and Alicia, and they're in some sort of sewer. There's walkers surrounding them, and they're basically trying to fight off the walkers. It's going to be interesting to see how they get out of this situation. Now, what's interesting is that this basically reveals that Alicia and Madison find each other, because at the end of Season 3, what we saw was they were separated. So it seems like they're going to basically find each other again. Next, we have this photo of this new character. Now, we don't know who this character is. It's a new character. We don't know if he's a villain as part of the community that Proctor John was a part of, or if he's a new character from a new community, or if he's a character that was part of the damn community that we just didn't meet. Next, we have this photo of these other two new characters. I don't think this guy is the same guy as the guy we saw in the last photo, but these are some new characters that are going to be introduced, so it's going to be interesting to see how they fit in. Now, we're going to obviously have to wait and see how they're introduced. However, the female character seems to be connected to Morgan somehow, because if we take a look at the next photo, we can see Morgan with the same female character. They're inside some sort of van. We can't say too much else about this photo here. The only thing we can tell is that Morgan seems to meet up with this new character, and maybe this crossover will be part of the introduction of these new characters. So maybe Morgan will be with them as they're introduced. Next, we have another photo of Morgan. He is basically leaning against a truck, and if you take a look at what's written on the truck, it says Texas. This crossover is gonna be in Texas. So the setting of this crossover in the world of Fear the Walking Dead is gonna be Texas. So the setting of when Morgan meets the Fear the Walking Dead characters or gets introduced to the Fear the Walking Dead world is going to be in Texas. So it's not that they're just filming there. We can also see that he has the bow staff. And if you take a look at one side, it's sharpened. So that's a massive, massive, massive hint because he recently sharpened that. So this kind of solidifies that rumor that was out there that Fear the Walking Dead is going to have a massive time jump, and the events of Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 are going to be matching up with the aftermath of Season 8 of The Walking Dead. So Morgan is going to leave after Season 8. He's going to find his way to Texas and meet up with the characters in the Fear the Walking Dead world. And this crossover is not going to have anything to do with Morgan's past. It's not going to be part of a flashback. So that's very interesting, and it reveals a lot, in my opinion. We can basically say that Morgan is safe in Season 8. He's not going to die because there's a lot of things that are hinting towards that. So the last photo we have is again of Morgan, and he has this attire. Now, this attire is very interesting because it looks a lot like what he was wearing during Season 5. If you remember, when he was basically trying to find Rick and the others after he left Eastman, he was wearing the same thing. He was still wearing that when he went to the church, found the map, and traveled to DC because of what was written on the map. And that was when he basically met up with Daryl and Aaron and found his way to Alexandria. Now, I think this is just a way for them to throw us off and make us confused and not know exactly how this crossover is going to happen, because if you pay more attention, you can see that there's a rip on the jacket. That rip was not there last time we saw Morgan wearing that. So this kind of further proves that this is going to be after season 8 in terms of timeline. So the rip on the jacket and the sharpening on one side of the bow staff both kind of support the claim that there's going to be some sort of massive time jump in Fear the Walking Dead, and that the events of season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead are going to be matching up with the aftermath of season 8 of The Walking Dead in terms of timeline. But these are very interesting photos. Again, I still haven't got used to seeing Morgan as part of Fear the Walking Dead, because I've talked a lot about Morgan in The Walking Dead's original, and it just feels odd that he is in these photos with the Fear the Walking Dead cast. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's introduced. I'm actually very excited about it. I think if they do it right, it's going to be very interesting, but it's going to be difficult for them to pull it off right. But now that the crossover is not going to include any sort of flashback, then it's going to be easier for them to pull off. Because if they had to kind of deal with everything that happened in the past and making it consistent, it would have been difficult. But now, it makes more sense. The only thing is that Fear the Walking Dead is going to have a massive time jump, which is a disappointment. It just shows that Fear the Walking Dead basically failed at what it tried to do. It tried to be original, but it needs Walking Dead and this crossover to be able to survive. Because if it wasn't there, then maybe people wouldn't be as interested in it as they are now. For me, honestly, I'm excited about season 4 only because of this crossover. That's the only reason. But other thing I want to point out here is that we didn't see any photo of Morgan with any of the other characters or the main characters from Fear. The only photo we saw of Morgan that wasn't just Morgan was with this new character. So that might be a way for them to not reveal too much, because we may be able to basically put the pieces together if we see photos of Morgan with the other members, like Alicia, Madison, Nick Daniel, or even Strand. But like I said, I'm excited for this crossover, and as part of that, I'm very excited to basically see season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead and see what happens there. The last thing I want to mention is that if you don't know already, Scott Gimple has been added as the executive producer for season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead. So he's not just going to be the showrunner for The Walking Dead's original, he's the executive producer for season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead. And that might have a lot to do with this crossover character. Because as we know, Scott Gimple has said over and over again that, he's very connected to Morgan. And every standalone Morgan episode that we've got, or anything to do with Morgan, has been specifically written by Scott Gimple, and Morgan's storyline is kind of like Scott Gimple's baby. So it makes sense for him to want to be there in Fear the Walking Dead when Morgan is continuing his story, so that it's consistent, so that it makes sense, so that they don't ruin Morgan's character. Now, I lied. That wasn't the last thing I was going to say. I have one last thing I want to mention. I promise this is the last thing I want to say. But another thing that kind of supports that this is after season 8, that this crossover is after season 8, is what Scott Gimple said. He said that Morgan's story arc in season 8 positioned him for the storyline that he's going to have in Fear the Walking Dead season 4. So all of these things are kind of coming together now and proving that the events of this crossover in season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead are going to be after the events of season 8 of The Walking Dead's original show in terms of timeline. Give me your thoughts and opinions about these photos, especially the Morgan-centric ones, in the comment section below. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.